Capitol Report is a production of Senate Media Services.
Will the Sherco coal plant be replaced by a natural gas operation? We'll ask the Senate bill's author. We'll also talk with lawmakers who seek to eliminate taxes on Social Security income and to make college tuition free. Stay tuned for this and more on this week's Capitol Report. Welcome to this week's program. I'm Shannon Lurkey. The Senate is known for moving a bit slower than the House, and a bill that would allow Xcel Energy to build and operate a natural gas power plant in Sherburne County is no exception. The House bill is headed to the House chamber for a vote, and the Senate bill will be heard in its first committee this week. Joining me now in the studio is the Senate bill's author, Senator Andrew Matthews. Welcome.
Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate being here.
Power plant construction and operation issues are generally left to the Public Utilities Commission. So why bring this one to the legislature?
So the reason why we're doing this bill, the reason why it's the #1 issue in my district representing the city of Becker and Sherburne County, is because some history and background on the plant is that Sherco generates about 2,400 megawatts of power for all of central Minnesota. There are 3 units combined. Xcel Energy proposed a couple years ago retiring units 1 and 2 and putting in a gas plant. The retirements are supposed to take place in 2023 and 2026. And there needs to be something that can step in and replace that power generation that would be lost. So they went through the whole process. They explained their plan to the Public Utilities Commission. And last fall, they decided to approve the plan to close down the coal units, but did not yet, they told to wait and hold off on approving the gas plant. And that just simply is not acceptable to the district, to the needs of the plant and the energy needs required there. They need to have time to plan, to build this. They need some certainty on this issue. And all sides agree there really does need to be baseload generation of some sort, likely a gas plant. So this is to finish the process that should have been completed last year at the PUC.
So you're trying to go around the PUC. Were they going to, did they say that they would rule at some point in the future, but your district needs that certainty now?
They left it open. We're not going around the PUC.
Okay.
We are completing the process that was left unfinished. And I will tell some of my folks it's like oversight of any other government agency. If they don't do their job, if they don't finish an adequate job, it is the legislature's prerogative to give oversight and to see that the jobs are finished.
With Sherco units 1 and 2 slated to close, as you mentioned, Becker and the surrounding area stand to lose quite a few jobs and quite a lot of tax revenue. Is that also part of the reason why you're doing this?
It is, yes. The Sherco plants contribute like 60% or more of the entire property tax revenue for all of Sherburne County, and also a huge portion of the revenue for the city of Becker. So this is absolutely vital to that community, to the county, to that whole area for local units of government. And the jobs factor is also important. It will be a net loss of jobs. A gas plant takes fewer employees to run.
I think I read 150 jobs.
Correct.
Versus the current, what is it, 300?
Correct.
Okay.
And the gas plant, when that is fully operational, will take maybe 15 to 20 employees, I am told. So we will be looking at ways to increase the number of jobs for the community, but there definitely needs to be a source of energy that is present and likely at that facility, because there's already the transmission and the infrastructure already built into that community. We don't have to remake the wheel for a whole brand new site for energy. All sides basically agree it is a prime location for a power plant, and it just needs to be done and have some certainty from getting it built and for moving forward.
According to state law, the Public Utilities Commission can only approve new fossil fuel plants that are in the public interest. In your view, does this plant meet the public interest requirement?
It does. The natural gas plants do put out fewer emissions than the coal unit, and there still needs to be a baseload power source to contribute to what central Minnesota needs. Wind and solar are wonderful forms of energy. I'm not opposed to them, but they cannot supply the baseload power that's needed. So there does need to be something in additional that creates that foundation. And what Xcel has been trying to do with several units around the state is to replace coal plants with a combination of natural gas and wind. And the two, they tell me, tie very well together for both meeting the goals of renewable energies while providing the foundation baseload needs.
Several groups, including Isaiah and the Citizens Utility Board, are opposed to this legislation. They've been fairly vocal about it. And Annie Levinson Falk of the Citizens Utility Board said to the St. Cloud Times, and this is kind of a long quote, "Our concern from the consumer perspective is the bill mandates the construction of a specific plant without going through the process that is supposed to ensure that this is the lowest cost energy resource for Xcel's ratepayers, who are the ones who are going to be on the hook for all the costs." So how do you respond to those concerns about, these costs getting passed on to the consumer?
Yeah. What we will be doing with the bill, because it is not the intention of Xcel or us to have these rates get passed off to the taxpayer. If that does happen, the first ones they'll be hearing from is the representatives, myself, Representative Newberger in the House. Those who live there, like us, will be the ones impacted by that, and it is absolutely not what we are looking for either. But in order to clarify that, when the bill leaves the Senate committee, it will likely have an amendment to specifically address those concerns, to specifically state that Xcel will continue to have these resource plans go before the PUC as this process goes along, to make sure that the rates will be in the public interest. So the ratepayers and the people that are served by this power plant will continue to be protected. We're going to include language in there to ensure that. And as the process goes along, they will need to continue to prove this to the PUC. We just need to make sure that this project can get started, that this can get off the ground and running.
Senator Matthews, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate being here. Thank you, Shannon.
At the Capitol this week, on Tuesday, officials from Governor Dayton's administration spoke to the press about the importance of investing in technology infrastructure and cybersecurity reforms.
More and more state government is realizing that to deliver on the mission of state government, we depend on our IT infrastructure, just like our state depends on roads and bridges and the infrastructure to do that work that we need to do.
I want to give a little bit of context to the concerns that we have about our IT security and our IT technology. The state of Minnesota, as you know, serves Minnesotans every day in a number of different ways. Just a couple of examples to show you the magnitude. We service 864,000 public school students every day through our technology. We provide services to over 370,000 veterans and their families. And we have, for example, 30,000 children and families who receive child care assistance every month. We rely on technology to provide these services. Nearly every critical government service that we provide Minnesotans is provided through our IT systems.
We're also pivoting to become a more digital Minnesota, much like our private industry partners as well. Think of Uber, think about Airbnb. Many businesses are IT these days, and Minnesota government needs to gain some efficiencies and become better service providers via becoming that digital government. But while that digital transformation takes place, we have to be concerned with the safety and the security of the information. And as we build a more digital Minnesota, we need to secure our state and address the growing threat to systems and services that we provide, and most importantly, the private data that we hold.
On Wednesday, House Republicans announced the creation of a citizen-focused select committee on technology.
And I'm very excited to announce today that the House Republicans are going to create, under my direction, a new committee, a select committee for technology and responsive government. I think for, we have such, so many computer systems and so many ways that customers, our citizens interact with state government, and I think we have so many opportunities to improve that, to shorten the amount of time it takes in those interactions, to make that a more customer service oriented process, and to use technology to make it not only more efficient but also more effective.
Really honored to have been asked by the Speaker to take on this challenge of trying to make sure that when citizens are touching the government somehow, that we can try to make it better and faster. I'm a small business guy, like the Speaker said, and I know what it's like to run a restaurant and run a hotel. And so when we look at those kinds of things, we want to make sure we're reactive. And I think that this is like a big business, a huge business, but it's something that we want to make sure is better, and we look at things from the outside once in a while.
And Thursday, Senate Majority Leader Gazelka announced earlier committee deadlines.
Our dates are very early, and we have a reason for that. It's so that we give every opportunity for the Senate and the House and the governor to work together to come to a conclusion that all of the legislators were able to look at and to go through. We want to eliminate some of the midnight hour at the very end when very few people are actually involved in the process. So we're trying to communicate openly. What are we trying to do? How do we get there? And then invite people to come in and participate. So in this presentation, we're saying March 31st is going to be our deadline. The House and Senate have come together and agreed on that. Governor, we're going to come and welcome you in to communicate and to negotiate, and so that we have a win at the end for us and for the governor, and in the end, that's really going to be a win for Minnesota.
The essential work of lawmakers is to decide what the important priorities are for the state and how to pay for them. My guest has authored a bill to appropriate funds for Explore Minnesota tourism and a bill to phase in an exemption to taxes on Social Security income for all Minnesotans. Senator Carrie Ruud joins me now in the studio to talk about those efforts. Welcome.
Yeah, good afternoon.
So let's start with taxes. You've authored a bill that will phase out income taxes on Social Security over 5 years. How is Social Security income taxed now, and why phase out those taxes altogether?
Well, we know that if we do it all in once, it leaves a big hole in the budget. And so by phasing out over 5 years, we give the state a chance to budget for those dollars and figure out how we pay for it. So we're not leaving this big hole in the budget. And so after 5 years, then it would be phased out and we would be done.
So Social Security is something people collect in retirement. And throughout our lives, all income is taxed at some point, whether when we earn it or when we withdraw it in retirement. Except for Social Security under your plan, why is Social Security income different from all the other income we earn?
You know, we're only one of 4 states in the United States, out of all the states, that still taxes Social Security income. And we think it's just wrong. It shouldn't be taxed. The other states don't do it. And so when we like to attract and draw senior citizens to our state and keep them here, and they see that their Social Security is taxed, that makes a big difference to them, because when you're on a fixed income, every little penny counts.
That's true. The DFL has historically objected to this because they say it puts too large of a hole in the budget. Now, you said it'll be phased so that you can find other revenue to replace this, but is it possible to find a compromise in here? It's going to be a significant loss of money.
Yes and no, because right now we're losing our seniors to other states. Especially in my district, Aiken County has the highest median age of any county in the state of Minnesota. And so I have a lot of seniors. We also have seasonal properties. And right now with the tax situation, they can be residents of other states and not Minnesota. And so we're losing a lot of tax dollars that we could be capturing from them staying in our state. Now, right now they leave for the southern climes to make sure that their residency is down there instead of Minnesota, so they don't have to pay taxes. Well, if they stay in our state longer, we capture those dollars back. They spend money in our restaurants, they spend money in our theaters and in our communities, and they're such a great resource. You know, our senior citizens are our volunteers. They're the ones that deliver the Meals on Wheels to other seniors. They're the soul of our communities, so that's such an asset to Minnesota. We want to keep them here and be Minnesotans.
Minnesotans, yes. Is it possible, though, that some of these Minnesotans might be locating elsewhere simply because of the weather?
Oh, heavens, no. We're all...
Okay.
We have so many fabulous things to do in Minnesota during the winter as in the summer, and maybe they might go for maybe 1 or 2 months, but they wouldn't make their residence somewhere else, and that's what's happening now. It used to be they went for maybe January, February, March, they went to the southern climes, but for the most part, for the other 9 months, they were in Minnesota for our beautiful weather and our summers. So we don't, well, you know, it's fine that they go for those couple months, but let's have their residency here right in Minnesota.
So, speaking of weather and being outdoors and tourism, your other bill is to appropriate money for the Explore Minnesota Tourism Board or whatever it is that they are. Your bill would appropriate almost $13 million in the next biennium. You've said this organization, this group, is very near and dear to your heart. What would this money be used for?
Well, Explore Minnesota Tourism, we market all over the United States and within Minnesota, the United States, and we heard today in committee globally. And that's, you know, really incredibly important to our economy. The dollars, $14 billion economy through tourism, that's simply amazing. So what this does is we always make an Explore Minnesota Tourism appropriation, but this bill also adds $1 million for technology because our website has not been updated for, I believe, about 5 years. And typically when someone searches on the internet, we want them to see Explore Minnesota and all the things it has to offer. So our technology needs to be really up to date in order to capitalize on the money that we do spend on tourism.
Is there a good return on the investment in terms of how much money you're putting into Explore Minnesota?
Oh, absolutely. I can't remember what the figure is, but the dollar amount is really amazing for the money spent, and it's always been that way. And I think the legislature has always been really generous to Explore Minnesota Tourism because of the fact it brings such great return on investment to Minnesota.
Well, Minnesota has a lot to offer. We've got
absolutely.
Forests and prairies and all kinds of stuff. One of the allocations is for $750,000 over the 2-year period to assist communities in funding and securing major events. Will there be some way to ensure that those dollars are spent attracting events from outside of the state and to make sure that no two communities are pitting against each other?
You know, we put this bill in last year as a pilot project, not realizing how excited all of our communities would be to utilize these funds. And so some of the communities didn't feel like they had the chance and the opportunity to get these funds. And so we are asking for more grant money to help our communities. In the bill, it doesn't specifically say, the language does not say that, and we could change that. That's not a problem. But the guidelines that people are given when they apply for the funds are very strict. That event cannot have happened inside Minnesota, I believe, for 5 years prior to it coming back. Some of the communities want to bid on these great regional and statewide, or not statewide, but United States-wide. I would like us to see the National Snowshoe Competition come to Minnesota. We have the ability to bring it here, but in a small community like Cuyuna, they would need help to figure out how to bid for it. Sometimes a community is asked to put up, say, $15,000 or $20,000 in a bid amount, and for a small community, that's really difficult. And then they have to figure out their finances, their rooms, their transportation issues, what are the logistics of this. And so this fund really helps them do that. We've seen it be successful in other parts of the state, so we're very excited about this program.
Senator Root, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Monday was Hospitality and Tourism Day at the Capitol, and testifiers from around the state spoke before the Environment and Natural Resources Policy and Legacy Finance Committee on the importance of Explore Minnesota tourism dollars.
Tourism really is the front door to economic development in our state. For every $1 invested in tourism, an estimated $98 in traveler spending and $9 in state and local taxes is generated.
Tourism in this state supports nearly 260,000 full and part-time jobs, a total of 11% of private sector employment, about $5.1 billion in wages, and 17% of all state sales taxes is generated from tourism and hospitality. The face of our industry is very diverse. Tourism and related traveler spending supports a wide variety of Main Street businesses and indirectly supports jobs in many other industries, as well as opening doors for other economic sectors.
Explore Minnesota tourism grants and co-ops allow us to stretch our marketing dollars and take part in advertising opportunities that we would not have been able to otherwise. We rely on Explore Minnesota tourism to market the state.
College affordability is an issue of great concern to college-bound students and their families. Joining me in the studio to talk about the Minnesota College Affordability Act is the bill's author, Senator Ron Latz. Welcome.
Thank you, Shannon.
Recently, the Institute for College Access and Success ranked Minnesota near the top for the amount of debt that students have accrued during their education. It's at $31,000. So this is leaving those students kind of strapped at the beginning of their careers. And so what would your bill do to address this problem?
Well, the bill would provide them with a free college tuition in Minnesota, any 2- or 4-year institution. So the University of Minnesota, Minnesota State Colleges and University System, they get tuition free while they're in the school. They would not get the entire tuition waived. What would happen is other sources of financial aid would apply first. So federal Pell Grants and state student aid would apply, and then their income qualified for those, and then whatever tuition is left, this bill would cover for them. So they can get to go to college tuition free and graduate, at least in terms of tuition, without any debt related to that tuition.
And which students will qualify for this? Where are the income caps?
Yeah, students who are in dependent children who are in families that earn up to $125,000 would qualify, and if they are independent, up to $75,000.
Is this for, you said University of Minnesota, MnSCU. What about some of the private 4-year institutions in the state? Could students go to those schools?
They could, but they would not benefit from this bill. We're covering public institutions. That's our primary responsibility in state government. Our Minnesota student aid system does help provide college aid for people who choose the private schools. But our primary focus is on the public institutions, and that's who we give direct general fund subsidies to or support for their education as well.
This seems like a pretty expensive proposition. How do you propose that it be paid for?
It should come out of the general fund, part of our general taxpayer dollars. It's a really important priority. And I think part of the idea is that if we get more kids going to college and graduating debt-free, they can begin to earn a living, be more productive members of the economy right away, and will pay tax dollars. So in the long run, our economy will benefit as well as the kids will benefit. If they graduate with all of this debt, it delays their ability to buy a house, to buy a car. If they want to start a business, it makes it harder to start a business or even to get loans to be able to start a business. And they spend more of their working life. It may delay marriage, too, for kids who want financial stability to be debt-free before, or people who don't want to marry someone who has a lot of college debt hanging on either. So a lot of life is delayed as a result. One thing that's important to note is that it will not affect who is being able to go to college for non-financial reasons. So if you're applying to the University of Minnesota and you have to meet a certain academic threshold or criteria for admission, you're still going to have to meet those criteria. And with the MnSCU system, where they don't have, some of them are completely open in terms of enrollment, once you get into the school, you're still going to have to cut it academically to stay there. The point here is to prevent finances from being that barrier to entry.
I imagine that the Republicans will have some opposition to this. Would simply starting with letting community college be free be a viable compromise just to get this going?
It certainly would be a step in the right direction. And if they were willing to step up to the plate and say, yeah, we'll cover that, then I'd say, yeah, let's do that. What's really important to note in terms of the value here is that high school, people working in the economy with only a high school degree, their wages have stagnated. I mean, it's just not growing at all. But if you've got a college education, the wages are going up, salaries are going up, and that gap is widening. So it's more important now than ever before to get that post-secondary degree, whether it's a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree.
Now, I think when you and I were in school, tuition was lower. And declining state support is often pointed as a reason for why college has gotten so expensive. With Republican majorities in the House and the Senate, how much traction do you think this can get?
Well, I think it's for those who are concerned about self-worth of an individual who works hard for what they achieve, this is an easy one to support. For those who want to make sure our economy grows well, this is an easy one to support. You know, when all of us, most of us who are in the legislature now, were going through school, if we were here in Minnesota, our institutions were paid by the state 2/3 of their costs of operating. So they provide an education at much less expense to us. Yet in the time I've been here in the legislature since 2003, that has dropped by half. So now the state is only paying 1/3 of the cost of higher education in Minnesota. We've forced the burden onto the students and their families. So I think it's only fair that we buy that back. And we're not doing it only in the way of directly paying the universities and the schools for their operating expenses, but also making the payments directly to the students to keep that, because then you know it's going to go toward tuition relief.
Well, but some would argue that if students don't have their own financial skin in the game, they won't take their education seriously. What do you say to that?
Well, there's something to be said for that, and I don't disagree. But tuition isn't the only cost of going to college either. There are costs of living, and not everyone's going to live at home when they go to college. And there are other expenses related to attending school. So it's a barrier to people, and I think if we remove at least part of this financial barrier to going to college, those who are qualified for it have the work ethic, the fortitude, the willingness to put the hard work in to be successful in college, will find they can attend and not worry as much about the finances.
There's various philosophies about the role education plays. Some of it think of it as liberal for arts and teaching people how to reason and think and understand history. Others see it more as a job training and preparing the future workforce. If we're going in the direction of preparing a future workforce in terms of the value of education, is there a role to be played by corporations and businesses to further provide the funds for educating that workforce?
Well, the businesses are paying property taxes and income taxes in Minnesota, so they're already supporting our schools, K-12 and higher education. And you know, certainly if they want to, you know, work with the schools to figure out exactly what programs to offer to train their own workforce, great. I don't think we should expect them to pay any additional to support those schools. I think it's a broad public responsibility for all of us.
Well, Senator Latz, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Join us again next week as we delve into more topics affecting Minnesotans. I'm Shannon Lurkey, and on behalf of all of us at Senate Media Services, thanks for watching.